Mark Hill from Green Leaves. So it seems almost moronic that we are now discussing again the withdrawal agreement, which has taken 3 years of painful debate for us to realise is fatally flawed. But yet again, we seem to be going back to it in order to be nice to the European Union. Now, I'm going to rehearse yet again the arguments against the withdrawal agreement, and this time I'm going to take the arguments given by John Mills of Labour Leave, who wrote this article on Brexit Central, which I'm just going to summarise for you now. Why should we be opposed to the withdrawal agreement? Well, the article from this very famous Labour donor, Labour supporter, Labour entrepreneur goes like this. Firstly, 39 billion is not legally enforceable against the UK if we don't sign a withdrawal agreement. If we do sign a withdrawal agreement, then ultimately we have legally agreed to pay it. Otherwise, well, it's a matter for negotiation and potentially could be reduced. Secondly, if we sign the withdrawal agreement, there will no longer be any pressure on the European Union to resolve the Irish border problem, which ultimately is their problem. It's a decision that they have to make about whether or not their single market is at all vulnerable to trade from Northern Ireland, which at the moment, of course, is fairly minimal. Northern Ireland basically trades with the rest of the UK, really, rather than Southern Ireland, the Republic. And agreeing the withdrawal agreement means that we take responsibility for that. But, you know, again, if we don't share the problem, then it will never be put right. If we pursue no deal, then another advantage is we won't be tied into the customs union. And if we're tied into the customs union through the withdrawal agreement, then it will mean that nobody can sign free trade treaties with us, and therefore product recognition can't go ahead. If we are instead separate from the European Union in terms of finances, which are mentioned in the withdrawal agreement, and tax rates and all of those sorts of things, then we can start to address the really heavy deficit that we have with the European Union. You see, it's not just the famous £350 million a week on the side of the bus. The problem is actually much deeper than that. It is the structural balance of payments deficit that we have with the European Union. Ultimately, we mainly go shopping in the European Union. We don't buy from elsewhere in the world. And as a result, we have a surplus with the rest of the world because we're only selling. Whereas with the European Union, we have a very heavy deficit. It's about 100 billion a year. So that's not 350 million pounds a week. That's like £2 billion a week. Considerably more. Well, because of our need to be independent, we can only really get this solved if we are independent of the customs union. So, for all of these reasons, this prominent Labour supporter argues against the withdrawal agreement, and so far, allied with people who don't want to leave the EU at all, that view has represented a majority within the House of Commons. So why on earth are we going back to it? This will only create further delay and further unhappiness.